Planes, trains, and automobiles. For this one, it's just trains. Haunted trains, actually. Yeah, buckle up. Welcome back to Most Amazing Top 10. Here are the top 10 horrifying things that happened on train journeys. All aboard. Kicking off the list at number 10, the midnight inspection. This one comes from Reddit, as do a good amount of these, most of them, the best place ever. And the username, generic time machine, good name, they share us a glimpse of their job, and it sounds pretty terrifying right off the bat. They say, I'm an engineer now, but as a conductor, I was walking my train one midnight, lacing air hoses, getting the cars, the freights, ready to pull. I noticed what I thought was a dog or coyote about 100 yards away. No big deal, I have a big aluminum and steel stick with a hook for cranking brakes without having to climb onto the cars. Then I noticed it kind of tracing along, pacing with me. I could see the glow of its eyes watching me. Okay, already this is like some Twilight stuff. I don't know, maybe it's Jacob. Maybe he's stalking you. Maybe he's in love with you. Let's keep going. Later, as we're ready to depart, I'm out in front of the engine, opening the track switch to get onto the main line. I'm in the engine's headlights and I hear my engineer say quietly over the radio, calmly walk up to the engine, but if I blow the whistle, run. Okay, I'm thinking, oh geez, that's just a coyote, no big deal, and I keep working, but he starts flashing the cab lights, so I think maybe there's a manager stalking us, so I go up there. He has me close the nose door and points out a giant mountain lion perched up on a berm 20 feet from where I was, casually sprawled out, staring dead at us. This was northern Iowa, so pretty uncommon. Yeah, even if it was a place where that is common, that's still terrifying. Glad you survived. Also, don't go out there alone. Let that guy come out with you. Leave the headlights on, don't flash them. Leave them as bright as you can go. Number 9, repairs. It's sadly common for trains to hit animals. They try and fence off the tracks whenever they can, but dead animals on the tracks only cause other animals, hungry ones, to come in and make the same grave mistake. So when these trains finally conclude their journey, they have to be repaired in some way, shape, or form, especially after hitting a large animal. Like, I live in Canada, and let me tell you, if a car hits a moose, that's a lot of damage, more so to the car, if I'm being honest. Redditor Love Killed Mars shares their experience after a train rolled in for repairs one day. They say, I was working at BNSF Railway in Stockton, California, maintaining the cranes that pull cars off the tracks when a freight car engine rolled in with the front end a little caved in and also covered red. The entire front end was covered in what appeared to be red parts of something left over from rolling through maybe, I don't know, a horde of zombies. I didn't know what to think. I felt my stomach churn and my coworker turned green and heaved a bit. Later, I walked up to it as these folks were cleaning it without any signs of being affected by the sight at all. Turns out the train hit a stalled fiberglass trailer filled with tomatoes that was headed to Oakdale. Those poor tomatoes. Probably didn't see it coming at all. Tragic. Number 8, train rain. I don't know how else to say this other than by doing a list on it. Do not play on train tracks. Do not play near train tracks. Don't play around train cars. Just play Warzone and eat Doritos. Don't explore. This next tale of fortunate events, rather, comes from Reddit user SuperKing01. They say, some guys laid a bunch of landscaping stones and tie plates on top of the tracks for about 100 yards in front of their trailer park. This is a very bad idea. Don't do this. We can see them all standing back from the tracks, drinking beers and waiting. Just casually, just waiting to see a derailment. Okay. It was all fun and games until our 12,000 ton train started crushing all the stones and sending shrapnel everywhere. Yeah, they made it rain. Idiots. Don't do this. Also, I hope everyone was okay, but don't do this. This is obviously idiotic. I'm trying to teach you at the same time. See what I'm doing? Number 7, trench coat train ride. This one comes from the POV of the conductor, which can either be a spectacle, maybe you're traveling through the mountains, your front row on the Polar Express basically, or you could be in this guy's situation in the front of a train, which isn't as magical per se. User Green Lantern 33 shared their experience saying, conductor here, one time in the middle of the night in the middle of winter, 10 degrees and a foot of snow on the ground, my train went into emergency. I had to walk the length of the train to see what the problem was, and the train was right in the middle of a very small town. As I'm walking by one of the houses on the outskirts of this town, I see a guy standing in the driveway about 50 feet from me wearing a trench coat and a sock hat type thing. The first thing that struck me as odd is that it was way too cold to be wearing just a trench coat. I shine my lantern on the guy, wave and say hi. Nothing. The guy doesn't even move. I continue walking past the guy to the end of the train while looking back very often. I finally get to the end, turn around and head back. I get back to the house where this guy is standing and he is still there in the same place, in the same position. He hasn't moved. I don't say anything this time, I just speed walk back to the head of the train. The next day I'm taking a train back home during the day. I'm paying special attention to this house as we go by it. Of Of course, there was nothing there this time. The driveway isn't shoveled, nothing is there that could have been mistaken for a guy in a trench coat. I've since been to this house dozens of times and I've never seen a car parked there, or even a light on, or anything at all. Ghosts, maybe it's just a guy with a trench coat. It's always that kid who wore shorts to school, even if it was winter. Maybe it was him, maybe he's just standing out there just breathing, getting some air. Maybe he was smoking. I don't know, maybe he didn't have a lighter. Or maybe it's a ghost, maybe it was a phantom. Maybe you're right. Who knows? Number 6, the ghost that walked away. Ghost stories are always interesting to say the least. Regardless if you believe it or not, it's fun to dive in and give your 2 cents, But what if the details came from a non-believer? What happens when somebody who doesn't believe in ghosts believes that they saw one? From user Away We Throw 504, they say, my dad, who is a no-nonsense man, came home one night after a derailment and was white as a sheet. He told my mom he met a man walking away from the derailment, which was in the middle of the woods. He didn't think it was too weird because some people check out wrecks and derailments. Anyway, my dad gets to the derailment. The cause of the derailment was that a truck had been hit and then pushed to the side by the engine. Now, none of this is weird until my dad sees the deceased man in the truck. It looked like a beat-up version of the same man he saw on the way to the derailment. That is insane. Thank you for sharing. These types of stories creep me out because they don't realize something until after the fact. That's the key here. When you're scared and you're confused, your mind wants you to believe. It wants you to create something so that you're like, okay, it's this. It's a ghost. That's more believable than nothing. But this happened before, so I don't know. That's pretty creepy. Thanks for sharing. Number 5, training day. Your first few weeks at a new job are always nerve-wracking. You don't know where anything is. You don't know anybody. No one's helping you. It's tough. This next one comes from user Train Monster. As they recall their first few weeks at a railroad company, they posted saying, I was a young transportation supervisor trainee for a railroad. It was my first month in inner city Detroit. It was about 3 a.m. and I had to help inspect a train that was having trouble moving. It was winter and the brakes wouldn't release. The guy I was training with dropped me off at one end of the train and I started walking towards the locomotives. About 20 cars into the train, I started hearing footsteps on the other side and I would turn my lantern off, wait a few seconds, and then they would also stop. This repeated for about 10 minutes as I walked towards these locomotives. It eventually stopped when I met up with the other part of the train crew. I'm sure it was nothing, probably a coyote or a stray dog, but I was freaked out. Yeah, it's pretty freaked out. If it's a person or an animal, the fact that they're like going with your pace, that's dangerous. Good eye, also good ears. I would just climb to the top of the train and run on the top cars like I'm Tom Cruise, just yeet, yeet. They wouldn't even see me. They'd be like, where'd that guy go with the lantern? Number 4, a different body. The sad reality is that 1,000 people a year lose their lives in train-related incidents, be it on purpose near the tracks or by accident. Again, I can't implore this enough, just stay away from train tracks. This next one comes from JD428JD. They say I am a freight conductor. At 5 in the morning, it was determined we hit a person, which sucks. But the craziest part here was that I thought that we hit 2 different people. The woman that I saw was white. She was heavy set and she was in her late 40s. She was walking towards the train, leaning out in front of us. When myself and the brakeman walked back to find that woman, what we found did not match what we had seen. We found a Latina woman who was very thin. I later found out she was in her early 20s. Now at this point I thought I was crazy, but the brakeman started asking me if we had hit 2 different people, and he described the woman in her 40s the same as I had seen her. Needless to say, we only did hit 1 person after all, and he and I were convinced that this young girl was possessed by some sort of evil entity. The face I saw before we hit her still pops into my mind occasionally. It was evil, twisted, and full of pain. Honestly, I don't know what to think about that. I think that's just how people look when they're struggling in front of a train. I don't know. I would assume they wouldn't look happy, to say the least. Number 3, station ghost. During these long trips, passengers and conductors alike get to see the most beautiful train stations. These little platforms in the middle of nowhere, or maybe it's a cute little town that you had no idea even existed in the first place. It's part of the journey to stretch your legs out and ask where you are. But what if you arrived and they said it was a haunted train station? Yeah, what would you do? Like the Leamington Spa station in the UK, for example. It's known to be extremely haunted. Like, I've even heard of this thing. Doors slamming shut, lights flickering on and off, and the sounds of footsteps are so common that it's almost not a concern anymore to visitors. It's truly known as one of the most haunted buildings in Britain, so much so that Chiltern Railways hired a guy named Nick Reese. He was a patrol officer who specialized in dealing with the supernatural. What a job. He walked the station grounds daily, communicating with the spirits and making sure that they stayed to themselves. He says that ghosts are friendly, but he never wants to meet them. That's a conflicting statement, my friend, but you know what? Keep doing your job, because footsteps, I'll take that. Things start slamming, poltergeists, I don't know. The train station? Can you haunt a train? I don't want to know. Number 2, the dancing ghost. Heading over to Canada for this one. Vancouver's waterfront station is historic, but of course that means that it is haunted. To be honest, this one sounds scarier than the last one. Yeah, buckle up. The guards that roam the station at night have opened up about the spirits that roam within. Staff reported soft voices, footsteps, and also, fun little thing here that most people don't notice, a 1920s woman dancing in the corner all by herself. That's a thing people have seen. No thank you, I'm out. Now it gets even worse than this. Are you ready for this? One night there was an incident where the guard entered the storage room, which was full of old desks and all that rubbish, but when he turned around to leave, the desks had moved, so now he was stuck inside the room for a hot minute. The station is so widely known that travelers make it a point to venture this way on purpose. No way. Also, I'm not even taking a train. So boring. I don't know. Depends where we're going, but just fly. It's so much faster. You can sleep the whole way, and they're also not haunted, which helps. And finally, number 1, ghost train hunters. Back in 2010, CNN published an article titled Ghost Train Hunter Killed by Train in North Carolina. But this story really begins in 1891. See, back then, a passenger train near Statesville, North Carolina derailed on a bridge, sending all 7 cars crashing down below, where of course sadly 30 people lost their lives. So on the anniversary of this tragic accident every year, it's been rumored that you will hear the wheels screeching. You already know where I'm going with this. I am so upset. This was enough to get numerous ghost hunters out there annually, and on that day around 3 a.m. there were a lot of ghost hunters really on that same bridge, and that's when a Norfolk Southern train surprised them all. All of them but 2 ended up making it off the bridge. If you're gonna ghost hunt, just don't. Also, don't put yourself in danger and go to a place where people have made the same mistake before you. I don't know, that's kind of mistakes. We learn from them, I thought, right? Guys, thank you so much for joining us on Most Amazing Top 10. I've been your host, Taylor McWaters, and we'll see you next time. Peace. Leah's spitting in the mic, eh? Spitting at the mic. Ties on day. Chocolate rain. He's out. Sorry, I'm flying here. I'm Mr. Speedy Talk. Thanks, my dude.